3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everybody, to the second ever UFC show. So I guess UFC.
I think it's the third one.
Third one?
Yeah, I think we did because,
wow.
yeah, we did one for the CM Punk one, and then we did the other one for DC and Brock Lesnar.
You're right.
Fallout, and now this one.
You're right.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the UFC show number 3 here for the Ring Generals. We are recording on Monday, February 25th in anticipation for this monster UFC 235 card. It's me, Nick Nenad, alongside Eric Santos.
What's cooking?
Yes,
What's happening?
RKJ Man couldn't make it. He generally doesn't do the UFC shows anyways, though, but he
This is
could
more
not
of a specialty
make it.
one.
Yeah, this is a specialty show. Eric and I love the UFC. And we are more, I'm probably as excited for this card as I was that Whitaker Yoel Romero card when CM Punk fought last time.
Well, it was a stacked card if you ask me. The last one that we did, but this one there's more excitement in this one. I mean, anything can happen in this card, the pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, there's what we were talking about before the show. 3 main event level fights. John Jones defending his light heavyweight championship against contender Anthony Smith. Tyron Woodley defending his championship against Kamaru Usman. And Robbie Lawler versus a debuting Ben Askren. So, you have the 2 championship fights, which could main event any UFC card. And then Robbie Lawler and Ben Askren, which more than likely would main event a UFC fight night or possibly a UFC pay-per-view, depending on the build for the fight. Also have Cody Garbrandt on this card. Jeremy Stevens versus Zabit. I'm not going to say his last name because I don't know how to say it yet.
Right.
And also the opening bout of the preliminary card on ESPN, Diego Sanchez versus Mickey Gall. So
Mickey Gall.
Yeah,
Wow.
we're obviously fans of Mickey Gall since he beat down CM Punk a couple years ago.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so going to be a great card. We're really, really excited. Before we get to UFC 235, though, we did want to mention our thoughts on the Ngannou Cain Velasquez main event in Phoenix.
Oh man.
We were definitely excited about this. I actually watched this in Boston at my girlfriend's apartment. I was like, I got to see this fight. Normally, I don't go back and watch the fight nights, but I'm like, I don't know what happens. Francis Ngannou's a beast. Cain Velasquez is, of course, Cain Velasquez. And unfortunately, Francis Ngannou went in there and laid a couple punches in, just 26 seconds in, and then Cain Velasquez, what it looked like, hurt his knee after taking the 2 punches. So Ngannou wins in a very short fight in the first round. Eric, you're a big fan of Cain Velasquez. What were your thoughts on this fight, and what are your thoughts on him in the future?
Cain Velasquez, I thought, to me, he looked prepared. Even Cain Velasquez has said himself, he looked prepared as well. He seemed ready. He seemed excited to go up against Francis Ngannou. Francis looked pretty calm. He felt confident that he was going to beat down, knock out, or choke out Cain Velasquez. But, if this is what Cain Velasquez said after, this is during the press conference after the fight. He said that those punches that Francis Ngannou was giving him, he said it didn't affect him. The only thing that it did affect him was when he slipped on his was it his left knee or was it on his
I don't remember. I think he slipped on both knees, to be honest.
Yeah, for both knees, yeah. If it wasn't for that he would have continued the fight. And for me personally, I think if he would have never slipped or he never got injured, I think he would continue the fight. Now I think that what would have happened is that what Francis would have done, he would have put him on the ground. He would have just calmed him down in a way, try to grapple him here and there, and then after that, Cain would try to go for his face, try to give him a right hook, left hand, try to do whatever he can, but I wouldn't see the fight going another round. Just knowing how Francis has such a big dude he is, and man, even just by looking at Cain Velasquez after that, him being pissed off, I could sense his rage. I could just feel him being just pissed off. I would be pissed off too.
Yeah.
Now, Cain Velasquez, the future for him, he did say that he would come back soon, and I would like to see him back in the octagon again. But I don't see him going up against Francis Ngannou anytime soon. I don't see him going up against him. I would like to see him maybe face, I don't know, maybe Curtis Blades. I would like to see him face Curtis Blades in the future. I don't see him facing Stipe Miocic anytime soon. I don't think so, but I think maybe a good candidate up against Cain Velasquez is Curtis Blades.
Yeah, that would make sense because Curtis Blades was knocked out by Francis Ngannou.
That's right.
And I think Curtis Blades is still right there. Right,
he's still in that area. Yeah,
Curtis Blades also knocked Alistair Overeem the hell out too. So it's not like he's a slouch in the heavyweight division. These guys, I mean, Derek Lewis, Stipe, Curtis, Daniel Cormier, Francis Ngannou. These guys are all monsters. They all could win a fight at any second.
That's right.
Right. So, you look at heavyweight matchups. That's where you're going to look at this one. I agree with you. Curtis Blades would be a good contender to fight. I'm going to look at who Curtis Blades is fighting next if he's fight. Yes, he doesn't have a scheduled fight yet.
Yeah, but I do know that Derek Lewis will be fighting in the next UFC fight night from what we know. Derek Lewis
who is he
versus
fighting again?
Dos Santos Jr.
Oh, Jr. Okay, so that's a lot like this Ngannou-Cain Velasquez fight where you have kind of a veteran versus not a young gun, but an entertaining dude in Derek Lewis. I mean, Derek Lewis, he's hilarious.
He's a hilarious dude, man.
Yeah. So, but back to my thoughts on Cain Velasquez. Unfortunately, he got hurt. It's funny. I'd almost rather see him lose a fight like this than just get knocked straight out. Because I think if he got knocked straight out, it'd almost be like retirement time. I think with this kind of outcome, we're definitely going to see another Cain Velasquez fight unless he retires. But you know what? Cain Velasquez is one of the best heavyweights of all time. You never know. The guy could get back up there and potentially have one more title fight, but he needs to take care of his body and not let this kind of thing happen again.
Yeah, he's got to be careful when it comes down to big dudes like Francis Ngannou. Yes, you got to watch out for that.
No, exactly. So we'll see who Cain Velasquez fights again if he does fight again. Now, Francis Ngannou, you mentioned that Cain Velasquez would fight Curtis Blades. He's already knocked out Curtis Blades. He obviously had that not so impressive fight against Derek Lewis where he essentially didn't throw a punch.
Yeah.
Where does Francis Ngannou go next?
Well, he did say in the press conference that after the fight that he wants his title shot. He wants his title shot as soon as possible. And he did mention another individual that was talking shit on him. And we all know him, the beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, dude, Brock Lesnar's on every heavyweight's radar and even some light heavyweights radar.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with that would be I feel like if Brock is going to come to the UFC again, as long as he's still employed with WWE, I only see it being like a one fight per year deal, right? Not even literally deal. I'm just talking about like Brock's going to come for the title, right? He had the promotion with Daniel Cormier. So you look at Daniel Cormier. I don't know exactly when he's fighting again because he's still recovering from injury, but more than likely he's going to face, a Stipe Miocic. Let me just check that out real quick just to make sure I'm not.
Definitely. With Brock, the only thing that they can do with Brock if he were to come to the UFC is if WWE and UFC were to work together. This goes back to UFC 200 when Brock came back, and I think what happened was that, okay, we'll take Brock Lesnar. We'll give you Brock Lesnar, but you got to do something in return for us.
Yeah.
I think what it was for UFC to promote WWE 2K17 at the time because Brock Lesnar was on the cover. And if you remember that pay-per-view, it was heavily commercialized. That game was heavily commercialized all over. And I think that was the deal. Now, if Brock were to do that again, I think they'd probably do the same thing too. Whatever product that WWE has coming out around that time.
No, I mean, yeah, you could do something like that. I think with Brock, you know what? You could have a fight against Francis Ngannou. That would be an absolute barn burner, I guess.
Well, he did call Stipe Miocic a piece of shit, and he did call Francis Ngannou a piece of shit.
He did call. See, that's probably why Francis Ngannou is mad too, because of that kind of stuff, you know. Yeah, it's going to be interesting with Ngannou what he does next. I'm going to watch whatever he does next.
Oh yeah, he's something to look at.
I mean, if the UFC wants to give Daniel Cormier Francis, it's almost like they have enough respect for Cormier. It's like, let's give super fights and not let Francis Ngannou knock this guy's head off and end his career essentially, because that's kind of where I see this. And Ngannou's, I think he might be the scariest fighter besides John Jones in the UFC. And I don't necessarily want to see him fight Daniel Cormier because I'd rather see the super fights with Daniel Cormier to end his career, and then, Francis Ngannou kind of get in there next and something like that, and then have the, but we'll just see. We'll see what happens, but I'm definitely going to be watching.
Yeah, he, like Francis said, he says he wants his title shot as soon as possible. That could be a possibility. But for as far as what's going on with Brock and DC and John Jones, there's kind of a turmoil. So I don't know if Francis is going to get his title shot as soon as possible, as like he said. So it's kind of, I think it's going to be on hold, if you ask me.
I mean, I think because Daniel Cormier stated in an interview recently that he's still not ready to fight. So you look at, we're essentially in March now. I mean, this fight's going to be in March. We're going to talk about it in a second. You look at the March thing, and he's probably going to be out till the summer. So Brock Lesnar's open in the summer. I think Daniel Cormier's next fight is Brock Lesnar, right? Then you could possibly have John Jones, right? Because here's the thing, UFC is not going to give Ngannou a shot before John Jones.
No, they're not.
So if he fights Brock Lesnar first, which he more than likely will, although the timing with John Jones having this fight and then potentially winning would be a good thing. And John Jones also could lose to Anthony Smith and probably still have a fight with Daniel Cormier, and we'd all watch.
That would be a huge upset victory.
Yeah, no, exactly. So you look at John Jones or Brock Lesnar for that first fight, John Jones or Brock Lesnar for the second fight, and then maybe you have Francis Ngannou, or maybe Daniel Cormier relinquishes the title, something like that. And then that's what I'm talking about. I don't think Ngannou gets the next two fights at heavyweight, because he's not at the level of Brock Lesnar, John Jones, or Daniel Cormier. He's not at the level of those two guys. With fame, or technical ability, because Brock Lesnar, when he's on, is one of the best fighters of all time. And John Jones is the best fighter of all time, and he's still going.
Two biggest box office attractions.
Yeah, Francis Ngannou is the Deontay Wilder of boxing. He has a great right hand.
Yeah, you can say that.
But it's a great right hand. Deontay Wilder is a way better fighter. Deontay Wilder is the best heavyweight in the world, in my opinion. But it's kind of that one punch. Just that's it. That's all that's coming with Francis Ngannou until he, improves his repertoire. So
still waiting for that fight between Joshua and Wilder. But Joshua will be fighting.
There's some weird things going on in boxing right now because a lot of boxers are signing. They're signing their own deals with different outlets, and it's getting hard for super fights to happen.
Yeah.
But I was looking up something the other day, and it did say that more than likely the Fury Wilder fight is the next fight for those two.
That will be happening.
Yeah, Anthony Joshua is facing Miller.
Yeah, that's his next fight.
So that should be interesting. I'll probably try to check that out. But hopefully he wins so we can set up that next super fight in boxing. But nonetheless, we'll talk about boxing another time when stuff's actually going on.
Oh yeah.
So any last thoughts on Velasquez or Ngannou before we move to UFC 235?
I think we've said enough.
I think we did too. Yeah,
both great fighters. Yes,
exactly. So like I mentioned, we're gonna move on to UFC 235. 3 main event level fights on this card. Tesha Torres is on this card. Cody Garbrandt's on this card. Jeremy Stevens is on this card, and Mickey Gall is on this card, to just mention some famous names, right? There are a lot of other fighters on this card that are worthy of me mentioning. I'm just not going to mention them for the purpose of time. But so let's go over the 3 main fights. Let's start with Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren. This is a super interesting fight, would main event most fight night events. Robbie Lawler hasn't fought since December of 2017. That last fight he lost in a 5-round decision.
Pretty much a year.
For a fight. Exactly. To Rafael Dos Anjos. So not a slouch opponent in the least to lose to, but he hasn't fought in over a year. So that's something on his record. And then Ben Askren. If you don't know who Ben Askren is, he is a fighter that was essentially traded for Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. From one championship fighting to the UFC. Now, a little background. So this is Ben Askren's debut. But a little background to show his credibility. He has had either a Bellator championship belt or a ONE championship belt since 2013, besides one fight. The one fight he didn't have a title was the fight he debuted in ONE championship with. So similar to the UFC, he doesn't have a championship now, but he's essentially been a champion in these other lower level companies since 2013.
No,
So it's
he's
six
the real
years.
deal when it comes down to
Exactly. So
there.
there's a reason the UFC wanted him. There's the reason UFC was able to part ways with one of their legendary fighters in Mighty Mouse. But so this is a great fight. You have a UFC veteran, right? The Randy Orton of UFC in a way, like a guy that everyone respects their ability. They might not be the best fighter anymore, but they're going to give you a fight. And Robbie Lawler is one of the toughest fighters to ever step in the UFC octagon. And so he's going to face Brent Askren, who's 18-0 with one no contest, has defended the championship since 2011 in other companies, including Bellator. So this is going to be a great fight. Hard one to predict for sure. I'll give my prediction on this first.
Yeah, totally go for it, man.
I'm going to go Ben Askren. Ben Askren. I just have a feeling there's a reason the UFC has him in this company, and I don't think the dude is losing his first fight. Now Robbie Lawler is a great opponent, obviously, but I think Ben Askren. A lot of people say he's eventually going to be a welterweight champion in UFC, like he was in one championship and Bellator. So you're looking at this, Ben Askren might be looking over Tyron Woodley's shoulder coming into this fight, or Kamaru Usman, whoever we predict to win this fight.
That would be very interesting if that were to happen.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, maybe a number one contenders fight in a way. This fight is, but I'm going to go with Ben Askren. There's a reason they brought him into the UFC. The guy's got to be great.
There's a lot of hype around him. From
exactly,
what I remember,
and that's why I listed the credibility. The guy's had a championship since 2013. I want to keep mentioning it just to show you guys this guy is legitimate, even if you haven't heard of him before. So I'm going Ben Askren over Robbie Lawler. What about you, Eric?
This is going to be a little bit difficult, but understanding the whole thing about being out of the octagon for about a year for Lawler, I do believe that Lawler will give him a tough fight with Ben Askren. I think that Ben Askren, he will probably be surprised by a couple of movesets that Lawler's going to give him. But then again, Askren, I think he's the more hungrier one in this one. Like you said, there's a reason why they brought him in the UFC in the first place. The man's hungry. The man wants his title shot. And in order to do that, he's going to have to go up against tough guys like Robbie Lawler. Now, Ben Askren, him training with guys like in the Duke Rufus sports, we all know him, training with guys like Pettis, Tyron Woodley, all those guys. I think that Ben Askren might beat him. I really think so. It might go 3 rounds. 3 rounds.
Oh yeah, I'll give a round. I assume that fight's going to be 3 rounds because it's not the main event fight. But I'll go full 3 rounds too. I think Robbie Lawler doesn't get knocked out.
Right? No,
no.
He's gonna.
Yeah, Ben Askren I think will just lay in more punches. Robbie Lawler would make it. It might be fight of the night, but yeah, I think Ben Askren wins. But yeah, you're right. So I'll go 3 rounds as well. I don't see Robbie Lawler losing before that. Right. To be honest.
No, he's not going to be somebody to underestimate. I think that Askren, he's going to give it all he's got, but Robbie Lawler, he's going to have to really, really take this seriously.
No, yeah. I mean, you can't knock Robbie Lawler. You can't knock Ben Askren, which is why this is a great fight, and it's number 3 on the card.
Right. As
far as main events go, it's not the best fight on this card, even though that would be a great fight to watch on an ESPN or something like that. So,
main event wise.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in that, and we'll look forward to that as well, and maybe seeing if Ben Askren possibly gets a title shot with the winner of this next fight that we're going to talk about right now. Tyron Woodley versus Kamaru Usman. It is for the UFC welterweight championship. Tyron Woodley, real quick, he's on a 3-fight winning streak. 6 out of his last 7 fights he's won with 1 draw, and has had the UFC welterweight championship since July 30th, 2016. Has defended it 4 times. So been injured the last couple months. His last fight, September 8th, 2018, so not too long ago, against Darren Till. But he dominated Darren Till in that one. Had a boring fight against Damian Maia. So he hasn't had a big, long, drag-out brawl, for a while, but he still retained the championship 4 times in a row. And so, Eric, I'll let you get your take on this first. What do you think about this fight? And what do you think about Kamaru Usman? And who do you think is going to win?
This one is very interesting because I think it's almost like Tyron Woodley's kind of looking in the mirror in a way, kind of seeing a reflection of himself. With Usman, he's also another guy who's very hungry. I've seen him fight on some of the fight nights. Very skill-wise as wrestling. The man, he is definitely something that you need to look out for. And I think Tyron Woodley, he's going to have a hard time dealing with Usman. Wrestling-wise, he's definitely going to, he's the kind of guy who's not going to let go of you. He's not going to...
You're talking about Woodley or Usman?
Usman.
Oh, Usman.
He's the kind of guy who's not going to let go of you. Like if he sees you stand up, he's going to pick you back up and then throw your ass around the cage.
Yeah.
Now for Woodley, he's going to have to rely on those furious punches that he relies on so much, and using his grappling. His grappling is going to have to be his biggest asset to win this fight with Usman. I do know that Usman, he's going to give it everything he's got, and this match is going to be for 5 rounds. I see this going for 4 rounds.
Who you got winning?
I think Woodley's going to retain.
Woodley's going to retain again. Yeah, interesting analysis. I like that you kind of compared the wrestling and grappling like that and stuff like that. Here's the interesting thing about Usman. So he's beat Damian Maia and Rafael Dos Anjos in his last 2 fights by decision. Both of those fights, because they were main events of UFC cards, were 5-round fights, which means he's been in 2 championship fights, essentially. So that's a big deal when it comes to comparing him and Woodley, because I don't think either of them, that's an advantage. Right now, Tyron Woodley knows how to be in a huge fight for a championship, but Kamaru Usman's been in 2 main event fights and has gone the distance and won both fights. I had written down here he had performance of the night in his last fight versus Dos Anjos. So,
yeah,
this guy's as credible as it gets. Now, this was more than likely supposed to be Colby Covington in Usman's spot, but nonetheless, I don't think Kamaru Usman is a slouch in the spot. I think he's a worthy champion.
No, I think I would have to pick
championship contender.
I would have to pick Usman over Colby Covington, because I don't see Colby Covington coming after Woodley anytime soon, because the man
he's scared.
He had, like, even Tyron Woodley said himself, he had 3 chances, like 3 to 4 chances to fight him back in 2018. He could have fought him during the summer. He could have fought him during the wintertime. He could have fought him around this year too. But apparently,
Yeah, no, and if you want to be educated a little bit on Colby Covington, I see you looking down at your phone, so I know what you're doing over there, Eric.
Yeah, if you want to.
We're going to give you a taste of what Colby Covington is and who he is real quick.
This is
so real quick before you play the video. So this guy, remember, has ducked a fight with Tyron Woodley, but this is the type of stuff he's doing on social media. So whenever you get it over there, Eric, play it to the microphone. Hopefully this works well.
This is November 30th. November 30th, 2018.
Yeah.
What's up, Tyrone? How you doing, buddy? What are you up to? I know what you're not up to. Working on that shitty-ass cardio of yours. You're probably out in Hollywood kissing Harvey Weinstein's ass.
You're still talking to American virgins? Get in here, Colby. We got fucking cardio to do.
Booty calls for the cardio king.
Yeah, so that's Colby Covington in a shower talking about Tyron Woodley. You can check out his Instagram if you want to see the full video. So that's the type of guy that was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley. You see fighting words. He was wearing a Make America Great Again hat as well in that video. Big Trump guy. I believe he did bring the title to Donald Trump's desk when he won the interim welterweight title, not the actual title, because he won't fight Tyron Woodley. So there's that guy calling out Tyron Woodley. We wanted to play the video because we listened to it before, and I'm like, dude, it sounds good enough on the mic. Let's do it. Right? So, enough of Colby Covington. Back to the Kamaru Usman fight with Tyron Woodley. Usman has enough in the tank for a fight like this. He has enough credibility. He's 14-1. His only loss was his second career fight professionally, so he's won 13 straight fights here. So you said Woodley in 4 rounds. What are you saying? What's the submission, I'm guessing?
I think he's going to pummel him. I think he's going to knock him out.
Okay, so you think he wears him out and then eventually knocks him out?
He wears him out. The only thing that Kamaru Usman's got to worry about is endurance, because Woodley, I think he's got enough endurance as it is. Usman, he looks the kind of guy who, yes, he does have endurance, but is it enough for 5 rounds? That's the only question. So...
Yeah, against a championship fighter, because he has never fought for a championship before.
No, so this is a big break for him.
Yeah, so both these guys have wrestling backgrounds. Tyron Woodley obviously has the championship pedigree in this. They've both gone 5 rounds. I've done enough of promoting the 2. I think this fight goes 5 rounds full.
Whoa.
I think it goes to decision, and I think Woodley does enough to win. But this is going to be potentially fight of the night, potentially fight of the year. I think this is going to be a knockout, drag-out brawl. I think these guys are going to take some punches. I think there's going to be some takedowns. There's going to be levels to this fight. There's going to be points where Tyron Woodley is dominating, and there's going to be points where Kamaru Usman wins an entire round. I think that's what's going to happen here. So this is going to be a great fight in the co-main event. And I think Tyron Woodley... Whether you want to say it's based on... I'm getting a phone call right now, so let me just turn off this audio.
No worries.
Real quick.
But for right now, if anybody out there who actually thinks otherwise, if Usman might be winning, feel free to leave it in the comments.
Please. I'm giving him a chance to win this fight. I say it goes full, the full 5 rounds. But back to my thought before the phone call happened. I think Woodley will get more credit being the champion, I think, in this fight. He'll get a lot of points for that. I think he'll do enough takedown-wise to beat Usman and get enough points to win the fight. But I think it goes 5 rounds. I would be surprised if there's an early knockout. I'll say this. If there's an early knockout, I think I'm going to go Usman. I think he shocks the world and beats Woodley. If it goes 5 rounds, I just don't see Woodley. He's just too good of a fighter. To lose a decision in 5 rounds.
Well, we may never know, because we've been having a lot of surprise knockouts as of late.
I know, you're not kidding, though. I mean, you had Henry Cejudo win his second title against Dillashaw.
Yeah.
Although a lot of people thought that was an early stoppage. That happened. Francis Ngannou, Ryan Bader.
Chris Cyborg.
Nunes, so hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm hoping for this card to be, one of those old school UFC cards. And by the way, I'm hoping, before... we're doing this on Monday, so there's a couple days here.
Still got a week
left before this fight happens. Let's just hope everybody makes this fight and nobody gets hurt, like we've seen in the past too. Because I really want to see this card built up to what we're promoting it, and we're doing a UFC show because of it. So
don't get hurt or don't get freaking tested.
Yeah. So far,
stay clean, guys.
Exactly. So far, we have Ben Askren both winning the first fight. Mm-hmm. You said Askren. In
3 rounds.
So
3 rounds, yeah.
So decision?
Yes. I'm gonna have to go decision.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go. I'll go decision as well. So we both got Ben Askren in a decision, 3-round fight. We both have Woodley winning, but Eric thinks knockout in the 4th. I'm going decision in the 5th, obviously. Mm-hmm. And now we're gonna move on to the main event of the evening. Defending light heavyweight champion Jon Jones in his first defense in years versus #1 contender Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith was working for Fox Sports as far as a commentator. That is the first time I really heard of this guy. Yeah. So I had to do a lot of research.
I kind of want to add something to this. I actually thought he looked like Baron Corbin for a second.
He's got a bald head, cauliflowered ears, like a usual UFC fighter. But yeah, so this is, it's not a super fight here, but it is a light heavyweight fight, and Anthony Smith does have credibility. So before I give you the shine here, Eric did make a prediction. I just want to give you guys a couple background here on Anthony Smith. He's been fighting for a long time. I believe he has 47 fights in his career.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the record, man.
No, exactly. So, he's been fighting for a long time and been fighting for this spot for a long time. But his last 4 out of 7 fights have either had performance of the night or fight of the night recommendation, a claim from Sir Dana White. In his light heavyweight debut, which was 3 fights ago, he beat Rashad Evans, legend, in 53 seconds. In his last 2 fights, he's beaten Shogun Rua and Volkan Ozdemir. Both of those performance of the night, and then of course a knockout. So he has 1 first-round knockout and 2 performance of the night wins against Shogun Rua and Volkan Ozdemir, and that's the reason he's in this light heavyweight championship spot. Eric, floor is yours. What happens? How does Anthony Smith beat John Jones?
Man, when it comes down to Anthony Smith, I did see him fight a couple times. Now, I do know that John Jones will try to put him away as soon as possible because I know that he does not want to get cornered by Anthony Smith with those hard right hands. With John Jones, the only thing he can do is try to rely on some of those kicks, those devastating kicks that he gives to, guys like DC and so many others out there. Now, for Anthony Smith, the only advantage, like I said, the only advantage that he's got is to corner John Jones and just take him down and just pummel him. That's the only thing he can do. Wrestling background, I'm not sure how he's good on that, but the only thing that I know is that he's good at cornering.
Black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, so he's going to have to rely on his Jiu-Jitsu, but I know for a fact that John Jones might break out in some of his holds from Jiu-Jitsu because John Jones, when it comes down to the guy, we may argue with everything that he's done, everything he's done controversial-wise. John Jones, I think he might find ways to try to break out and try to grapple him, throw him down here and there. And as far as how long this fight might go, I think it might go 3 rounds.
Who you got winning?
John Jones.
It's hard to pick against him.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for John, that's for sure.
It's definitely going to be a tougher fight than his last fight, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to Alexander Gustafsson, but he dominated Alexander.
Yeah,
Gustafsson.
it was a kind of an easy fight.
Yeah, and like I like that you mentioned before I give my prediction about the fact that John Jones doesn't want to lay back because he kind of laid back with Gustafsson and was kind of trying it out. Now, it was his return to fighting for the first
relaxed.
time. Yeah,
yes,
it was his first time fighting since summer of 2017, obviously with all the drug stuff and all that stuff. But again, John Jones has not lost a fight since 2009. Okay?
Yeah.
He has essentially been in a championship fight since 2011. Okay? Anthony Smith has never been in a championship fight besides in VFC, so a minor league company. But he's never even been in a he's been in 2 main events, but he's never gone the distance in any of them. I'm going to go John Jones second round knockout with this one. I don't think this goes very long. John Jones is a beast. I think John Jones is so damn good that he could look ahead to a fight versus Brock Lesnar and Daniel Cormier and still win a fight.
Anthony Smith, I mean, he seems confident. I mean, that's the thing about these I know I tend to watch this, but I watch like those UFC embedded vlog series episodes just to get an idea how these guys are, where they're at before the fight happens. And, they freaking John Jones looked great. He looked great when it comes to striking. I think his striking coach even said that he looked perfect. He looked great. He's ready to go this Saturday. Anthony Smith, he's got a lot of stuff coming to him.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Like I mentioned, he's 31-13, so he's been able to lose 6'4", 205 pounds. But it's going to be tough. I just don't. John Jones is back, and he's not on drugs, and it's just this guy is the best fighter of all time, and he's not going to lose to a guy that's never had a title fight before. Okay, it's just not. Here's the thing about these guys: they're so good at taking punches, and you're going to see a lot of this on this card too, especially with these main event cards. But it's just John Jones can take a punch, right?
He's got a good chin.
And so he's not going to get knocked out like a lot of these other guys are. Now, Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, Mark Hunt, that's a little different.
Yeah.
But, Anthony Smith's a great fighter. He's just not a championship fighter.
I don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah, you're giving him till the third round. So do you think Anthony Smith has any offense in this fight to get in there? Because I feel like if it's going to go all the way third round, there's got to be some offensive attack. There's got to be some takedown by Anthony Smith.
He's going to have to. The best thing to do is just keep him on the ground.
Yeah,
keep him on the ground and just
keep who on the ground?
Keep John Jones on the ground as much as possible, or corner him. Like corner him.
Yeah, no, that will work.
Yeah, corner him would be great.
The thing with cornering John Jones though is the guy will just throw an elbow out of nowhere.
Yeah,
he's just incredible at fighting. I don't think there's going to be any offense really from Anthony Smith. I see the first round going kind of back and forth, both guys measuring each other out, and I think John Jones catches him in the second round with something and then beats him down and wins the fight.
So you see it more of a performance than a fight?
What do you mean by performance?
Like performance, like showcase.
No. I just think they'll measure each other out. I don't think John Jones will go for it all in the first round. I think he'll lay it back. That's why I agree with you. If Anthony Smith wants to win this fight, he has to really pressure John Jones in that first round. Because John Jones can knock you out in any round. And what Anthony Smith's got to do is try not to go the distance with John Jones. Because again, he's going to get that championship advantage. He's going to get some strikes and points given to him because of that. And because his name is John Jones. But
John Bones Jones.
No, exactly. I think it's going to be tough. Unless Anthony Smith really surprises me and comes out with a fantastic game plan and shocks John Jones, I don't see this fight going very long. Yeah, it shocks us. Dude, if John Jones gets knocked out by Anthony fucking Smith, okay, I'm going to go and say, because we're going to try to watch this fight together.
All right,
we haven't been able to in a long time.
That's
but
right.
We're going to try to watch it. I'm going to go nuts. I'm gonna freak out.
I'm gonna lose my
shit. We'll have
shit.
to record it. Yeah, we'll have to record it, and we'll bleep out that F word, obviously. But it's gonna be that. I think that fight ends quickly, and unlike the other fights I'm talking about, I think that's more of a just a win by John Jones. Any other fights on this card that you wanted to mention? Not really talk about and predict, but any other thing that interests you that we didn't go over as far as those main event fights? Any other fights that interest you?
As far as the prelims, the only one is just Diego Sanchez and Mickey Gall.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems to be, kind of interesting, but at the same time, it's like just one fight. That's it. But other than that, Cody Garbrandt and Tesha Torres, I think that's another one that I'm kind of interested in too. But Cody Garbrandt's also another one that would be very interesting to me. But other than that, I think I think we said enough as far as like what's happening, what's going to happen for UFC 235.
No, I did want to mention that. So this Jeremy Stephens Zabit fight, which normally I believe would probably be on the main card, but they wanted something to headline the ESPN portion of it because this is such a big card. Zabit versus Jeremy Stephens. Zabit, he's won a ton of fights in a row, has never lost in the UFC. He's also never even been the main event of anything either. Jeremy Stephens' last fight, or his last fight was against Jose Aldo, lost in the first round, but his last fight was against Jose Aldo. Before that, he had one performance of the night and two fight of the night. So that's not going to be a slouch of a fight. I wanted to give the little statistic on Zabit that I just saw too. Zabit also in his last 3 out of 4 fights, he has 2 performance of the nights and 1 fight of the night. So these guys coming, they're great fighters, and this is another great fight. Wouldn't probably main event anything, but this is another fight to look forward to. So if you're watching and you don't want to pay for the pay-per-view and you just kind of want to find out what happens or whatever, watching that Mickey Gall, Diego Sanchez fight to open up the ESPN card and the main event between Jeremy Stephens and Zabit. Again, I'm not saying his last name because I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't want to butcher it. But as far as that goes, I think UFC 235 is going to be great. Now, before we end this podcast, I did want to mention that George St. Pierre retired. And
I did see that.
Some of us expected him to possibly have another super fight, maybe against a Khabib, maybe against a Conor McGregor. That's not happening. You know what? I don't think he's done. I think he will have one more fight. I think if there's enough money thrown at him, I think he'll fight again. It would be a super fight against one of the two guys I mentioned, or maybe a Max Holloway or something like that. But I don't believe he's done. But if he is done, he went out on top, right? Last fight, big win. So I know if he never fights again, I'm okay with it. He's a legend. But I do believe he'll fight again, and I think it will be impressive like he always has been.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, like, if that was, like, his last fight, then, hey, I mean, that'd be great. For hardcore Junior St. Pierre fans out there, it sucks. Yeah, it does suck, but then again, that's how the world of mixed martial arts or combative sports is. Same thing with boxing, I kind of did want St. Pierre to maybe like fight Khabib or a guy like maybe like Conor McGregor, but that I never. Well, I didn't think it would happen like that quick, when it comes to retirement. But then again, St. Pierre, I'm pretty sure he's got something else planned for himself, and I don't see him retire just yet. I'm pretty sure he kind of does want to have like one last fight before they put him in the Hall of Fame.
No, he's definitely a Hall of Famer. He hasn't lost since April 7th, 2007.
Yeah.
So that's a day before WrestleMania 23.
Right.
That was the last time he lost. So that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That was to Matt Serra, who now does a podcast with Jim Norton, who's hilarious.
That's right.
But
well, most of these guys they all do podcasts now.
Yeah,
all these UFC fighters.
Even us, we do a podcast
us, yeah,
too.
That's right.
But yeah, his last
surprise.
Exactly. Yeah. What do you listen to? To just give a little background on him, if you don't recognize him, because there probably are some younger viewers that don't really realize who George St. Pierre is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He was the welterweight champion. He defended it from August 9th, 2008 to November 16th, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the best fighters of all time, obviously. And then he stopped fighting and fought again November 4th, 2017, and won the middleweight championship against Michael Bisping via rear naked choke. So if he goes out on top, he's going out on top.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, then we're going to see a super fight. It's not going to be some BS thing.
I mean, looking at his fights from like before, like back in the day, guys like BJ Penn, Matt Serra, Matt Hughes, Dan Hardy, Nick Diaz, all those guys. You can't argue with the man's credentials. Just I kind of do want to wish for him to fight like one last fight, but if he does go on top, like you said, he goes out on top.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be good. Congratulations to George St. Pierre on a fantastic career, but hopefully, at least for me, I see him in the octagon one more time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I got enough of him.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to see him like just do like one last fight, and that'd be great.
One last fight,
and then boom.
Come on, fight Khabib.
Yeah, fight Khabib. Fight
Conor. Connor's like a free agent. Connor fights whoever they tell him to. So,
yeah, that's true.
After Conor gets done with Cowboy Cerrone, I think we're looking at a fight like this. But I say we call it a day right there. Good podcast, Eric. Definitely. I think people will be educated by this, and hopefully they listen to our predictions and watch the fight and take into what we were talking about, because we are fans and we really do like talking about this stuff. There's a reason we do a podcast that not only is about professional wrestling and boxing, but is about UFC and the MMA community. So
that is true.
For Eric Santos and Nick Neenan, raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals.